Mr. Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Brunel University and to Anthem, a Grand Union, a project made in and about the London Borough of Hillingdon. The Grand Union Canal runs around the boundary of our borough, from the very north of Harefield, down by Uxbridge, Cowley and Useley. Then it goes across the south to West Drayton, Stockley and Hayes. From there, the Paddington Arm runs up the other side of the borough, from Minette to Yeading and onward into London. Tonight we take you on that journey with 9 school choirs, the Hillingdon Youth Jazz Band, the Central Band of the RAF, 7 composers and 14 original songs written especially for this event, all about the place we live and the canal that has run through it for 200 years. Welcome to Anthem, a Grand Union. Take it away, Cam.
Take your mind to the time before we had the railway, back when London town was remote. Instead of treading to Yeading, you took the old canal. Freedom was a horse and a boat. As we slowly through Cowley, from Regent to Useley, nothing is a rush or a fuss. A delay in West Drayton would never light a fuse. We prefer to a car or a bus. So step off the towpath and float along with us. Take a trip around the borough and the days that now are gone. Take a ride down the Grand Union Canal as it winds through Hillingdon. All canals have direction, you cannot go the wrong way. Sitting on the petrol seas. And tonight our performance will take you around, north, south, west, through east. It's splendid in Harefield, watch London to Uxbridge. Sail slowly through Cowley, don't lose me in Useley. Take freight through West Drayton, Wales, Rockley and Stockley. Spend days out in Hayes, get wet in Minette. Step off the towpath and float along with us. Take a trip around the borough and the days that now are gone. Take a ride down the Grand Union Canal as it winds through Hillingdon. Take a ride down the Grand Union Canal as it winds through
The Grand Union Canal started as the Grand Junction Canal early in 1792 when it was first conceived, and after something over a year's work, surveys, money raising, share selling, work on the canal started in early May 1793. And as far as we're concerned, at this end of it started at Brentford, where the canal was to enter the Thames, and it came all the way uphill through here at Rickmansworth in the middle of 1797, and it got to the summit at Tring early in 1799. First thing it was to do was to connect the industrial North and Midlands to the enormous market of London. The railway began to intrude on it quite severely during the 1850s, but there was enough trade for both the canal and the railway to do okay. And so the canal kept going in business, in good business, through the First World War, through the 1920s with things beginning to slow down, through the Second World War with the rate of decline accelerating, and then to nationalisation in 1948 when the whole thing came under government control. But it kept going even after that. The big freeze of 1962-63 caused very significant damage to the trade, and really the whole lot had packed up by 1970. And now, of course, it's used for leisure rather than trade and industry.
Originally, she was a fireboat in the war. She was then converted. She's designed to take young people out and about on the canal. Back cabin, through the engine, can sleep up to 12 people on Pisces, and out into the foredeck. Pisces originally started like this. It's flat at the moment. That's where the cargo would have gone. And as you can see, right down the far end, we've still got the back cabin, and that's where the engine is as well. A boat called Spirit. We've actually gutted her and made her totally acceptable for today's wheelchairs. Somebody has actually said, canal is like a doctor canal. All the things that hit us on a day-to-day life run away when you go on the canal. It's just peaceful, tranquil.
The canal goes right back into previous centuries. So our first stop as we travel down from Rickmansworth is a historical one. We visit Harefield Hospital, where Alexander Fleming, the man who discovered penicillin, worked during World War II, studying the effects of antibiotics. Please welcome John Locke Academy to sing Sir Alexander Fleming. canal, just outside of Ickenham, is the Hillingdon Outdoor Activity Centre. Locke Academy are now joined by Lake Farm Park Academy to sing a song about rowing.
I'm rowing home valley, natural beauty surrounds me. The birds sing a song for us. The sun reflects in the water. I lift my head up and see my teammates were working together. I start a pistol fight. I put my head down with through the water. And now Jack is holiday, if not before. I'm rowing home valley, natural beauty surrounds me. The birds sing a song for us. The sun reflects in the water. I lift my head up and see my teammates were working together. The first to finish line, the anthem of the competition. And now we're at next holiday, if not before. Ripples and rainbows, sunshine splashes and raindrops. Spending all day in the water. Why does this have to end? Maybe never. I'm rowing home valley, natural beauty surrounds me. When I look back, I learn something that stays with me forever. And now we're at this holiday, if not before. Come back again. Come back again.
Now, we're going to step off the canal for a scary visit with Lake Farm Park Academy to the infamous, and some say haunted, Mad Bess Wood.
We were living in a house temporarily, but we came back to the canal because we felt that for Liam there is more of a community sense here, and where we were living in our house, that you know, the neighbours didn't really say hello to each other, and there wasn't really any community sense, whereas here everybody says hello to each other.
It's a lovely view and there's lots of people that are very friendly, and we go up and down probably once every 2 weeks maybe to refill the water down at the lock, but I really enjoy that because meeting everyone going past is really nice. I'd quite like infinite power because we only have solar power and the generator that generates energy from fossil fuels.
So at night, for example, in a house, you wouldn't think twice about, you know, using any power you need, whereas here, you know, you can't because there's less power at night. And you don't want to run the generator at night because the neighbours would hear it.
You can only charge certain things at a certain time, and it's kind of annoying when you do that, so I'd like to be able to do that freely.
Because in London, when it's sort of hustle bustle and you're working and everything, it's quite hard to just have a little bit of what I like about the water and everything. It's quite a nice, still, quiet time, you know, with nature. I always have my art stuff with me. Just getting ideas for colours and inspiration from moving bodies of water. So that inspired me to take my children on the bikes and stuff, just to enjoy the quiet time around the water.
Oh yes, we have 3. Looks like we have a baby.
Yeah?
Are they blue or red?
They're all red. We only get red crayfish now.
We used to get blues.
These
These are called the American red crayfish.
signal crayfish.
Signal.
Do you want to pick one up?
crayfish. Okay.
Well done.
This is a signal crayfish, which, there it is.
Yeah, signals, signalling.
He's like waving out.
We're joining the fun at Packet Boat Marina now, just south of Uxbridge. Harmondsworth Primary School are going to sing Living on a Narrowboat.
Life is fine, living on a narrow boat. From my window I can see dragonflies, willow
A Hillingdon history lesson now. Harmondsworth are joined by Ladybanks Junior School to sing about our connection with Australia and Australian soldiers in World War I, with the song Harefield House Hospital.
In November 1914, with the Great War underway, a rich Australian couple owned the Harefield Park estate. They were keen to help the soldiers coming from their native land. So began the number 1 Australian Auxiliary Hospital. John and Letitia, Billy and Lee were luckily blessed with a generous streak. They offered their hands to the wounded and weak to convalesce, to heal and rest. The ministry thought the idea was inspired. All of these nurses and doctors were hired. Central equipment was quickly acquired. The Australian Imperial Forces joined the fight for the right to freedom, and the courage will long be remembered each year on Anzac Day. "50,000 men were cared for, sadly some did not survive. In St Mary's Parish churchyard, they lay buried side by side. They came from the lonely, bloody and bleak, increasing in numbers as week after week. Injured and pains of the shells to speak. The loathsome war they all endured, the poisonous gases, the bullets and fleas, treachery, necessity, death and disease. Then there were warriors braver than these. The Australian Imperial Forces joined the fight for the right to freedom, and their courage will long be remembered each year on Anzac Day. The Australian Imperial Forces joined the fight for the right to freedom, and their courage will long be remembered each year on Anzac Day.
Moving south again, Ladybanks School are going to help us along with a song about walking down the Grand Union Canal.
I take my
As part of the management that is funded by Affinity Water, Herts of Middlesex Wildlife Trust will be putting in a raised platform by the towpath so people can look out over the reeds and have fantastic views and engage with wildlife. Reedbed as a habitat is really important because of the structure of the reeds, and there's certain animals that would prefer to live in the reeds as they can make their nests in it, and they can go down to the water to hunt and drink. And it's really the structure of that reed, that close, the proximity of each plant to each other. It's almost a unique habitat which we have here. So there's a male reed bunting just perched on the reed there, and other birds you can hear include the reed warbler, which is the scratchy sound. You can also hear chaffinches in the trees, and there's a lovely robin singing in the trees over there. One amazing spectacle that can be witnessed here in winter is the accumulation of several hundreds of starlings, and they come here and do a murmuration of the fantastic flight display before coming down and settling into the reed beds at night. And these starlings can attract predators like sparrowhawks and even peregrine falcons, which have been seen here hunting the starlings as they come into roost. The fantastic thing about the reed beds here is that it's so close to an urban area, Hillingdon, and people from Hillingdon walk along the canal towpath and use the canal itself, and you have this fantastic myriad of wildlife so close to where people live, and I think that's fantastic.
I've been following the canals from Kendal in Cumbria, the top of the canals in the northwest, down to London.
Fantastic.
So,
and how many days have you been walking for then?
This is day 25. You seem to have got a huge amount of people living on the canal here. It's, it's barge to barge, it's bumper to bumper. Yeah. And this bit of the Grand Union, it's stunning. I've seen more wildlife down here. I've seen a guy this morning pull out a huge golden carp. Somewhere I've seen a fellow fly fishing on the Grand Union, which is incredible. And here at Springwell Reed Bed, oh, look at that, that looks certainly out of Africa.
So the company dates back to 1897 when it was registered as the Gramophone Company, but it's actually been in Hayes since 1907 when the first record pressing plant was set up. The canal was definitely a factor for moving materials to and from the factory for distribution purposes. So this is a photo album the company kept when it was called the Gramophone Company in the First World War. There's this lovely photo of the canal being used to move wood to and from the factories. Quite quickly after setting up in the UK, they set up in India, so factories were built in 1907 in India as well as in Hayes. Gramophone records were distributed throughout the world, and then right up to the 1960s, the global phenomenon, Beatles, Mersey Beat, about half of the record company's profits were from selling records abroad actually. The company sent its engineers Fred Geisberg and Sinclair Darby travelling around the globe. They did Europe, they did China, Russia. They were able to get into the courts of emperors, kings, queens and record there. This is what it would have been played on, this tiny gramophone. This looks a little bit like a 45 sing, it's just a couple of minutes of music. The canal here, as you can see in this picture, is being used. Boats are bringing wood, fuel, coal, and then this is the railway which runs the other side of the site, and it has its own railway sidings which actually goes right between the two buildings here.
On this side, because it's got a history of sound and broadcast, so EMI, His Master's Voice, so the HMV, and the vinyl store. Some of the most famous records have been recorded here. If you take the year 13, so they've been here for 2 years, so they will have had lots of input from the whole area of the radio broadcast.
Vinyl Vision is kind of like self-employed, so people coming to me to make music for them. So that's what, for me, that's what it is anyway.
For me, it would probably be becoming sort of my own artist and think, time we almost see it's been playing on my mind, wishing I could just rewind to the night when we fell in love, yeah. See boy.
One more time.
You want to do it again?
Yeah.
We now continue our journey towards Hayes. The area of Hayes was transformed, first by the coming of the canal, then by the coming of the railway. In that time, Hayes and West Drayton transformed from small rural villages into factory-dominated landscapes with housing appearing around to make the towns we see today. The industries attracted a diverse population, including those from successive waves of immigration, to create modern towns of enormous diversity with dozens of languages spoken. Our next three songs trace a little bit of that story, starting with Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who worked on the railways and canals. Hayes Park School are here to sing a song about him.
With your big cigar
industries being set up in this area were multifarious, from a large cocoa factory set up by the original bodybuilder, Sandow the Great, to His Master's Voice Factory, later EMI, opened by Enrico Caruso, and from which records from iconic British artists, including the Beatles, were distributed all around the world. Now, coming up to the swinging 60s, we have Hayes Park School, joining Charville Primary School, as we travel to the old vinyl factory. The Grand Union Canal race is 145 miles long. The race follows the length of the entire Grand Union Canal. It's the longest race in Britain. Now we have a chance to see the path of the canal through Hillingdon on the screen above us as Charville Primary perform the Grand Union Canal race.
I love to run.
The university's role in the Anthem project is to support it really, to allow it to happen, but also we really welcome people onto the campus to use our facilities because we are an open campus, we're part of the community, we regard ourselves as a civic university, so all sorts of events happen here. So for example, last night the inclusive choir event happened, so that was 10 local schools and all the children from those schools and their parents on campus in a beautiful, beautiful event. Well, the canal used to be so important, of course, for industry. I guess now it's very important for a focus for regeneration. So if you think, for example, of the regeneration that's happening in Hayes, and indeed in West Drayton, much of that regeneration is happening along the canal because lots of new houses are built on the area and it's seen as quite a scenic area in which to regenerate. The university is named after Isambard Kingdom Brunel. So he was a famous engineer. He lived in the 19th century from about 1806 to about 1859. So Brunel, the university, is named after this famous engineer because in the 1960s, when the university was founded, it was founded as an engineering university, a technical university. So Brunel was an engineer of all sorts of things, such as bridges, boats, massive, massive boats, steam engines, so on and so forth. And he was seen as very far ahead of his time in terms of the sorts of methods he used. Probably his most famous is the Clifton Bridge in Bristol. The Three Bridges project actually was his last project, and that's where we have this amazing kind of crossing over of the canal, the road, the railway.
Welcoming back Yeading. A round of applause for them, please. And for Bourne Primary and for junior singers. Come on, come back. And that's because we're going to be performing Earth, Steam and Water. I'll explain. Isambard Kingdom Brunel was a great canal and railway engineer, perhaps most famous for his amazing bridges. Brunel's final project was the amazing Three Bridges construction just outside the borders of Hillingdon, the Great Western and Brentford Railway, passing beneath the Grand Union Canal, which passes in turn beneath Windmill Lane in Hanwell. It was finished in 1859 and stood as a final monument to Brunel's genius when 2 months later he died. So we have Yeading Primary, the Hillingdon Music Hub Young Singers, and Bourne Primary here with us to sing Earth, Steam and Water. I'm going to sing. Now it's time for us to turn off the main Grand Union Canal. There we go. There we are. And we head up the eastern side of Hillingdon to Yeading, and beyond that to London on the Paddington branch. Yeading Primary School are here now to take us on a carnival parade along the Regent's Canal. So when you're ready, take it away, Yeading.
Going home, summer sticky, and everything catches underfoot in the darkness. The plastic bags and ping of cans and little bottles, chip fryers roaring out of open windows. It's 40 stops on the N207 to home, racing all those miles of water, and on the map on your phone, you're just an arrow, weaving and lagging up the road, so slow, and all night on the canal, the noses of boats all point to one place. Either sleep on their leashes or keep going. You keep going, tap your card and sit, noticing the little things which show you're getting close to home, and you pause for them. That nail shop with the ring of blue lights on all night like a halo, and in the rooms above you see the curtains ripple on the double glazing. Ring the bell. It's your street now, the road veiled in green, and you imagine the canal boat gliding through the shift of leaves, over the last lock and the fox. You like to think it's always the same one scatters from the driveway bins. The boats passing through the shadow of the bridge, and at the speed of water, your feet cross the threshold.
The threshold of London. That's where we live, on the way from Birmingham on a slow barge. The journeys that happen here in Hillingdon are not as fast as a high-speed train, or dramatic as a jumbo taking off, or crammed with the smells of the spices of East India Dock there at the end of the Regent's Canal, linked to us here by a thread of water and Brunel's pen. But all that ever came into London is here. The accents of Nepal and West Drayton, Italian singing on wax discs in our archives, Aussie slang spat into kidney dishes in Harefield, and Polish consonants and expertise in Cowley. Over the reed beds at Springwell mix red kites from the Chilterns and parakeets from India. And, still rabbiting, the Cockney folk whose families traded in London slum lives, making the country the city, and filled up the railways and surrounded the waterways with houses and public houses, swans and bottles, koi carps, malt shovels, packet boats, and old orchards. We sleep surrounded by the old arteries of England, the canals, carrying our daydreams down to the oceans and the world. And Hillingdon remains, in the middle, ever-changing Hillingdon. New schools, new children, new traditions, and always something new to sing. Tonight was our song. This is our anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Central Band of the RAF.